everybody. Good morning. How we doing today? Welcome to Coffee with Craig. Here to talk about whatever's on my mind. So hey, check this out. So one of the things that I do when I'm preparing to do this is I'm going through the news and I'm checking out stories and I'm looking for stories particularly relating to guns or the Second Amendment. And what's a trip is reading some of these stories. Like, I was reading a story just last week, and in the story it was talking about this big rash of gun store robberies, how it seems like more and more people are actually robbing gun stores. And it was specifically pointing to here in California, this one particular article. Now, what was interesting about it was they noted that in the last 2 years, 400 firearms have been stolen from gun stores. 400. Wow. A rash of gun store robberies. That's out of 70,000 firearms that were stolen in the state of California. 70,000. So my question is why is this a big story? Clearly, they're trying to make a story out of something that's not really news, right? It's almost like they're trying to create the news. Then there's the stories, and I know you guys have probably seen these in your local area. People being outraged over a gun store being opened 500 feet from a residential community or from a school or a daycare. And I'm looking at that and I'm asking myself, okay, so what's the story? I'm assuming that somewhere in the story there's going to be a tie between gun stores being located near schools and there being violence at those schools or daycare. I'm thinking that if there's a story, a journalist who's going to make the link in order to show that there's really a story there is actually going to invest a little bit of time to do that. And no, they don't. In fact, you can't find in the news where someone said, hey, I'm gonna go to the gun store, I'm gonna buy myself a gun, and then I'm gonna walk less than 500 feet to a school or a daycare or to a residential community and shoot the place up. It's not happening. So, and I'm asking myself, I'm like, what is going on here? Why does it seem like the media is trying to create stories, right? And it took me back to this little concept that I remember from a few years back, and it was this idea called civic journalism. Now, follow me here. Civic journalism is the idea of not just journalism where you report the news, but civic journalism is supposed to be where you work to kind of get people engaged in the issues affecting the nation, society, or community, through journalism. So, for example, maybe there's a lot of community in the neighborhood. So the local newspaper writes about the graffiti and what are the potential causes. And people are supposed to then get engaged in the idea of addressing the issue of civic journalism. Well, it would be fine, I guess, if it stopped there. But see, now we've gotten to the point where we don't just have civic journalism, we have engagement journalism, where you have people who are utilizing journalism, who are utilizing the media to create stories, to fabricate stories in order to get people to get involved in the political process for their particular agenda. Now, we've seen that here in California, we see it happening in Oregon, we see it happening in Nevada, where guys like Bloomberg, a media giant, go figure, are investing hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of dollars, right, in public relations firms to actually create a narrative in the media that eventually turns into anti-gun public policy. In fact, Bloomberg has gone so far that he's partnered with the Columbia School of Journalism in order to create this internship where they're actually not just providing a scholarship, but providing a stipend for people to go and write stories about guns, about anti-gun propaganda. I mean, it is literally to the point where major media is being used to propagate, the anti-gun agenda so that they can eventually push public policy. And we've seen it be effective because it's happening here in California. It happened in Nevada where they just passed Question 1. It's happening up in Oregon. It's happening in Washington. It's happening, folks, all across the country. Now, I know what you're saying. Craig, the mainstream media, bought out by the anti-gun left. Big news. But I need you to understand that it's not just about how it's happening, but it's the detail that they're going through, the resources that they're actively spending. This isn't just the journalistic left being anti-gun and, oh, hey, we're going to propagate this. This is a focused effort to try and infringe on your civil rights. That's what's happening. So how do we address it? How do we, what are we supposed to do about it? Well, the first thing that we need to do is this. Number one, don't turn them off. And here's the reason why. Once again, I know what you're saying. Well, why am I paying attention? Because you have to know what the other side is doing. It's like, if you're on a sports team, you're scouting the opponent. You've got to know what they're saying. You've got to know the foundation behind the propaganda that they're putting out there. Otherwise, how can you refute it? How can you come forward with the facts and the truth if you don't even know what they're saying? All right, so the first thing you got to do is we need to pay attention to what the mainstream media is saying. Then we also need to look to the reliable sources of information, people who we know are going to bring us the facts about the Second Amendment and the facts about guns and gun violence in this country. Folks like guns.com. Breitbart is another great example. Places where you can find good information. Some really good blogs, and these guys are really good at actually, taking even what the mainstream media does and analyzing it and breaking it down so you can get the real skinny. There's Arms and the Law, right? There's Only Guns and Money. There's also PA Gun Blog. In fact, here's what I want you guys to do. If you guys have people that you read who are really good at either breaking down the mainstream media when it comes to some of these gun stories, or even just reporting, from our perspective or from a general perspective on gun violence, do me a favor. Go ahead, put the link right here in the comments section. Help all of us get plugged in. And by the way, I can just tell you right now, Firearms Policy Coalition, you will not find a place where you can get better information. Because one of the reasons why I got involved with FPC is because we're not a conservative group, we're not a liberal group, we're not a libertarian group. We are a Second Amendment civil rights advocacy group, right? We don't push a partisan agenda, we push Second Amendment civil liberties. That's what we push. So anything we talk about, anything we do is going to come from that particular perspective. So first and foremost, I'll tell you, you want to go to firearmspolicy.org. Make sure you're following us there, and obviously you're following us here on social media. But anyway, so let's take a look and let's see what some of you guys have to say about this particular issue. See if you guys have any good recommendations for blogs. Let's see here. Question. This is from Tim Grimes. Question I have is, can the public be in the gallery when the legislature and the assembly is in session? Yes, you can. You can be in there when they're in session. Basically the times in which they're meeting here in California, Monday mornings, when it's in session, starting in January. Usually they meet Monday mornings. Actually Monday afternoon. Starts. I think the Senate starts at noon. The Assembly starts at like 1, and then Friday or Thursday mornings. So those are the times in which you can go. You can be there when they're in session on the floor, and there's also committees that are meeting. You can go to Assembly. Let's say California Assembly. Just Google California Assembly or Google California Senate, and you can go there on their websites. They'll tell you when every single committee hearing is taking place. My best suggestion to you, though, is if you follow us, we'll tell you when they're meeting and when they're going to be talking about the issue that's most important to you, which is the Second Amendment and our firearms rights. Let's see, what other questions do we have here? Going through. That's a bunch of BS. I agree. Oh, the media is a bunch of BS. Yeah, once again, I agree. I'm sorry, just trying to find you guys on here. So I don't see many people recommending media sources. What sorts of media sources are you guys using? Where are you guys finding your news? So rather than kind of prolong this, once again, I just want to encourage you guys. Make sure that you're staying informed and engaged. Once again, I can't recommend a better source than FPC, but I can tell you that there are some really good sources out there, and I can tell you that some of the folks here are going to be recommending some sources. So stay plugged in, stay involved, stay engaged, and let's make sure it's time to fight back against Bloomberg, because trust me, he's investing millions of dollars. Millions of dollars. And I'll tell you this is the one thing I've always said. If you want to stop the influence of big money in politics, there's only one thing that can do it. That's an informed and engaged electorate. That means you need to be informed. It also means you need to be engaged. So folks, stay engaged. We'll talk tomorrow. If you like these updates, please share them with your friends and subscribe to our YouTube channel.